In Australia, residents set traps to control the rising number of rodents.
Authorities say the rat infestations are due to a heavy wet season experienced by the region. More details on this later in the news. Good evening. I am Ricky Mathay.
I am Nina Richie Alagao-Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. Now for the headlines. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. opposes the ICC's drug war probe. Philippines condemns China's shadowing of the recent three-day maritime patrol. The international community braces as Israel and Hamas begin their four-day truce. Widespread unrest erupts in Dublin after a mass school stabbing. And China's health officials blame seasonal germs for the recent spike in pneumonia cases. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has given a firm stand against the International Criminal Court's drug war probe. The president dismissed the talk about the possibility that the Philippines would rejoin the ICC as a member. This includes Justice Chief Crispin Remulla's inquiries to the president about his position regarding the issue. According to the president, it is normal to discuss the said matters, especially with the Solons. The president added that the said premise would guarantee the country's return to the ICC.
It's really a sense of the House resolution. And it's the sense they're just expressing or manifesting the sense of the House that perhaps it's time to allow or to cooperate with the ICC investigations.
The president disclosed that his office received a proposal to study the measures to be taken.
There is also a question, should we return under the fold of the ICC? So that's again under study. So we'll just keep looking at it and see what our options are.
The president, however, refuted that the country has its own enforcement agencies.
May police naman tayo, may NBI naman tayo, may DOJ tayo. Kaya nila yung trabahong yan. And that's really where the conflict is.
In other news, mixed oil price adjustments are expected to take effect next week. According to the four-day estimates of oil industry firms, gasoline prices may remain stagnant or possibly drop by 10 centavos per liter. Kerosene, on the other hand, could increase by 35 to 50 centavos per liter. Meanwhile, diesel prices are predicted to go up by 20 to 40 centavos per liter. The Department of Energy said that the oil price movements are due to supply cuts of the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, or OPEC.
The Department of Labor and Employment, or DOLE, reminds employers to follow the proper wage rules for November 27, Bonifacio Day. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr., through Proclamation Number 90, has moved Bonifacio Day from a regular holiday on November 30 to the nearest Monday of the week. DOLE has released Labor Advisory Number 24, Series of 2023, stating that for work done in excess of 8 hours, the company shall pay the employee an additional 30% of the hourly rate on the day. On the other hand, for work done during a regular holiday that also falls on the employee's rest day, the worker is entitled to an additional 30% of the basic wage of 200%. Meanwhile, DOLE also noted that if the employee does no work, the employer shall pay 100% of the employee's wage for that day.
The Commission on Elections, or COMELEC, plans to introduce internet-based voting as an alternative mode for overseas Filipino workers, or OFWs, in the 2025 elections, even without an implementing law. This was announced by COMELEC Chairperson George Erwin Garcia during a forum in Manila. The objective of this move is to increase voter turnout among OFWs while reducing costs for the government. The COMELEC has been advocating for internet voting for OFWs since 2012 and has been urging Congress to pass a law to enable this voting method. Under the current Overseas Voting Act, the COMELEC has the authority to explore internet-based technologies for overseas voting. COMELEC Chairperson John Rex Laudianco has assured the public that overseas internet voting is safe. He emphasized that it requires only a small amount of data, similar to text messages, ensuring secure and efficient transmission of votes.
In other news, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. led the inauguration of the Healthway Cancer Care Hospital in Taguig, which is the first cancer-centered facility in the Philippines. Natalie Pichi has the details.
2, 3. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause, please.
Let me also recognize the city government of Taguig, the Department of Health, the FDA, for their efforts in accelerating the process to establish this facility. The opening of the HCCH will go a long way in improving access to quality cancer care for many Filipinos. Moreover, this endeavor highlights our strong partnership with the private sector in strengthening our healthcare system.
During the inauguration, President Marcos highlighted the increasing mortality rate of cancer among Filipinos, with cancer now ranking as the third leading cause of death in the country. He urged the public to prioritize regular checkups to detect possible risk of cancer at an early stage. The newly opened hospital offers a comprehensive range of equipment and services for cancer treatment. These include radiation oncology, surgery, chemotherapy, and palliative care, among others. The aim is to provide patients with access to state-of-the-art facilities and treatment options within the country. In line with efforts to support cancer patients, the Department of Health implemented the Cancer Assistance Fund last year. This fund covers both outpatient and inpatient services, including diagnostics, medications, treatment services, and other care-related components of cancer.
So let us work hand in hand as we take the challenges in public health and deliver quality medical services to our people all over the country. With all of us striving together in this pursuit, I am confident that we will succeed to bring forth a stronger and healthier Philippines in the future.
Natalie Pichi reporting for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
House Bill number 9293, or the National Nuclear Energy Safety Act, has been approved during a plenary session. The use of nuclear energy in the Philippines, however, remains in the hands of the country's president and the Congress. This is admitted by the chairperson of the House Special Committee on Nuclear Energy, Congressman Mark Juanco. According to the legislator, the House bill aims to the creation of the Philippine Atomic Energy Regulatory Authority as a preparation for the International Atomic Energy's prerequisite before a country is allowed to use nuclear energy. The Solon disclosed that anti-nuclear groups have poisoned the minds of the public regarding the bad effects of nuclear energy and radiation exposure. Juanco dismissed those claims, citing the studies of nuclear scientists. The congressman underscored that the power plants using fossil fuels as firewood are more damaging to an individual's health and even to the environment. Meanwhile, Juanco thanked President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. for his open-mindedness to the use of nuclear energy as a medium for a thriving path of economic growth.
Senate President Juan Miguel Zubiri said that 15 out of the 27 members of the Asia-Pacific Parliamentary Forum, or APPF, have expressed their support for the Philippines' candidacy in the United Nations Security Council, or UNSC. Zubiri made the statement during the sidelines of the 31st APPF event hosted by the Philippines. The Philippines has been actively campaigning to secure a non-permanent seat at the UNSC for the term 2027-2028. By obtaining the seat, the country aims to have a voice and representation within the influential body. The election to the UNSC involves securing the support of 2/3 of the members of the UN General Assembly. The Security Council is a crucial organ of the United Nations responsible for maintaining international peace and security. Senate President Zubiri said this: the Security Council considers all major problems of the world. So if we are on the council, we will have a voice in these global issues. While pursuing the non-permanent seat, the Philippines also recognizes other pressing concerns such as climate change and migration. However, Zubiri emphasized that managing disputes with China remains a significant objective for the country.
Solons are seeking to speed up efforts to free the 17 Filipino seafarers taken by Yemeni Houthi rebels in the Red Sea. Senate Majority Leader Joel Villanueva has urged the Departments of Foreign Affairs and migrant workers to do all means to secure the hostages' release. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. earlier said that the government was doing everything in its power to expedite the seafarers' safe return. Meanwhile, 10 out of 26 Filipinos in the Gaza Strip are set to cross the Rafah border to Egypt amid the war between Israel and the Hamas militant group. The Department of Foreign Affairs said that 111 Filipinos have exited the Gaza Strip, while 108 were repatriated. Coming up, the Philippine and Chinese Coast Guard trade jabs over joint sea patrols. Ecuador's youngest president takes office. And the world holds their breath as the 4-day Israel-Gaza truce takes effect. Stay tuned. Mata ng Agila International will return for more global news.
A daughter, wife, mother, civic leader, COO, CEO, and president. She wears many hats with grace and dedication, making an indelible impact on her community and beyond. Meet Ms. Mary Carla Christine Reyes-Sia, COO of CP Reyes Hospital in Tanawan, Batangas, and the Charter President of Soroptimist International of Malvar, who will let us learn a few management styles in running your businesses or organizations, as Open for Business brings you empowering excellence, a conversation with a multifaceted leader.
It's like a stairs. So develop your rank and file, develop your supervisors, your managers, the directors that we have. Pag nakapag-train ka or nakapag-build ka ng employees na magagaling, you don't have to worry.
Open for Business with Cesar Vallejos, Sunday, 9 p.m.
Welcome back to Mata ng Agila International. A Chinese Navy ship was reportedly observed shadowing Philippine and United States vessels during joint patrols in the West Philippine Sea. The ship from the People's Liberation Army Navy was monitored within 30 nautical miles of the Malampaya gas field in northern Palawan. China has accused the Philippines of involving foreign forces in patrolling the West Philippine Sea, claiming that it is an attempt to create trouble. Defense Secretary Gilberto Teodoro Jr. has criticized Beijing's accusations, referring to them as lies. He said, and I quote, "Who is the invader? It is China. The Philippines is not stirring up trouble. This is the reversal of the truth. It's an absolute falsity for China to say that." Teodoro also highlighted China's consistent distortion of the truth, emphasizing that China has very low credibility. He reiterated that the Philippines' primary interest is to protect its rights in accordance with the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea or UNCLOS, which China claims to respect in words but fails to demonstrate in actions.
The foreign ministers of South Korea, China, and Japan are scheduled to meet in Busan for talks with the aim of organizing their first leaders' summit in 4 years. The three countries had initially agreed to hold an annual summit from 2008 onwards to enhance regional cooperation. However, this plan has faced challenges due to bilateral disputes and the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. The last summit took place in 2019. During the upcoming talks, the foreign ministers will have extensive discussions on the future direction of trilateral cooperation, including regional and global issues of mutual concern. Additionally, the ministers will hold bilateral meetings on the sidelines of the main summit. The meeting of the foreign ministers is expected to provide an opportunity for dialogue, fostering greater understanding and cooperation among the three countries.
Taiwan reported that an Australian warship, HMAS Toowoomba, sailed through the Taiwan Strait amid tensions between Australia and China, despite attempts to reconcile ties. The Taiwan Strait is a narrow waterway that separates Taiwan, a democratically governed island, from China. HMAS Toowoomba entered the strait on Thursday and navigated through international waters as part of its regional deployment. It is not uncommon for Australian Navy vessels to transit through the Taiwan Strait using established international shipping lanes. However, this incident occurs during a sensitive period in Australia-China military relations, even as the two countries are attempting to improve diplomatic and trade ties. Just last week, Canberra raised concerns about an incident involving a Chinese warship and HMAS Toowoomba in Japan's exclusive economic zone. Australia reported that some of its military divers were injured during the incident.
New Zealand's Prime Minister Christopher Luxon unveils an unusual coalition government. Luxon and his National Party decided on a three-way coalition with the ACT Party and populist New Zealand First. The role of Deputy Prime Minister will change hands halfway through the government's three-year term, while New Zealand First's Winston Peters will be Deputy Prime Minister first. Then he will pass the office to ACT leader David Seymour.
The basis, as I have said, is that we will be a three-party coalition government. I will be the Prime Minister. Mr Peters will be Deputy Prime Minister for the first half of the term, and Mr Seymour will be for the second half.
Luxon's announcement was met with mixed criticism. Some political analysts note that the three-way coalition could make the government unstable. Others worry that the political mix may be volatile since Peters and Seymour have shown willingness to trade barbs in the past. But Luxon hosed down suggestions of friction between Peters and Seymour, asserting the government would be using the talents of both of these leaders. On Friday, the Peters and Seymour also shook hands and said they were learning to trust each other.
Pippa? No, we don't answer stupid questions. We've shaken hands here to be capable of earning trust. Please understand what real life looks like for adults. We've shaken hands on a commitment to make this government work because this country desperately needs it. Make no bones about it.
Leaders of the Collective Security Treaty Organization, or CSTO, discussed urgent problems of international and regional security at a summit in Minsk. Member nations signed 11 documents aimed at increasing the CSTO's effectiveness. Among the documents signed were measures to develop a crisis response system and establishing the Together for Peace medal. The leaders also agreed on mutual settlements between the contingents of the CSTO collective forces. Russia, Belarus, Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, and Tajikistan attended the summit, but some analysts worry that Armenia's absence meant lack of quorum. Belarusian Foreign Minister Sergei Aleynik says all decisions approved during the summit would be absolutely legitimate. He explains that he discussed issues and mechanisms for approving decisions with Armenian Foreign Minister Ararat Mirzoyan in a phone call. CSTO Secretary General Imangali Tasmagambetov will also visit Yerevan after the summit to hand over the signed documents to Armenia. Under the CSTO rules, all decisions must be made in consultation with all member states. Meanwhile, Kremlin said it regretted Armenia's decision to skip the summit over concerns that Yerevan could pull out of the CSTO. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov vows to continue talking with Armenia, adding that he hopes Yerevan remains their ally.
Media reports from Moscow say Russian journalist Boris Maksudov has died after sustaining injuries in a drone attack. From Donetsk, Russia, Arctic correspondent Roman Kosarev reports.
Boris Maksudov, we all know him very well here. We've been working together for years covering the special military operation here in Donbass and in other areas. And so far, what we know that indeed that he had died as a result of the wounds sustained after an attack by the Ukrainian kamikaze drone. Boris and his crew were in Zaporozhye region. They were filming the results of shelling of residential areas by Ukraine, and actually when they stopped filming, when they were on their way back from filming, their group was attacked they were attacked twice by those Ukrainian kamikaze drones, fragmentation type, and he was promptly taken to an army hospital where the surgeon had stabilized his condition. However, he was still not awake, and the decision was made to take him to a different hospital in Crimea. And from what we know now, he died en route to the hospital in Crimea. Now, Boris was just 38 years old. Actually, he celebrated his birthday on the 18th of November. He got married just recently, about a year and a half ago. Just recently bought an apartment in Moscow. He's got a wife who is an English teacher. Of course, we extend our condolences to her. Now, this is not the first time that a Russian journalist was killed by Ukraine, and it's common knowledge already that Russian journalists are, in the eyes of Ukrainian nationalist government, are legitimate targets, and they see nothing wrong with attacking members of the Russian press.
Guyanese Vice President Bharat Hagdeo says officials from the United States Department of Defense will visit Guyana next week. Hagdeo confirms that the official's trip is a response to the territorial dispute between Guyana and Venezuela concerning the oil-rich Essequibo region. It was discovered that the oil reserves in Essequibo are greater than those of Kuwait or the United Arab Emirates.
We are going to be working on greater defense cooperation with a number of countries. We would have from the U.S. Department of Defense next week 2 visits to Guyana by 2 teams, and then several other visits in the month of December, and high-level presence representation from the Department of Defense here.
Hagdeo says the Guyanese government is not interested in having military bases, but he asserts that the government must protect national interests and not succumb to Venezuela's bullyism. Both Guyana and Venezuela claim Essequibo, and the dispute over the region dates back to 1899, with an arbitration tribunal fixed the border between the 2 countries. But Venezuela's unilateral referendum will ask citizens if they should reject the 1899 tribunal decision, which Caracas says was null and void.
Ecuador's new president has been sworn into office. 35-year-old Daniel Noboa is the youngest person in the South American country's history to hold the top job. Crisan Fragata reports.
Daniel Noboa won the presidential election last October on a promise to restore peace to his country, which has been gripped by a bloody drug war. He takes over from Guillermo Lasso, who called a snap election to avoid possible impeachment. Noboa will only serve for 18 months, the remainder of Lasso's term. Law and order will be at the top of his agenda. According to the Ecuadorian Observatory of Organized Crime, there have been 3,600 murders this year linked to drug violence. Noboa plans to implement a state of emergency, suspend some civil rights such as freedom of movement, and put soldiers on the streets to stem the drug war. During his campaign, he said he wanted to create offshore prisons on barges to isolate some of the most violent inmates. Noboa will have his challenges. The millionaire and heir to a business empire has little political experience. Observers say he will have a structurally weak government. Crisan Fragara for Matanang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Israel and Hamas have started a ceasefire in Gaza that appears to be holding steady with no major reports of bombings, artillery strikes, or rocket attacks, although both sides have been trading accusations of violence. The first pause in a 48-day-old war began this morning, involving a comprehensive ceasefire in North and South Gaza, overseeing the release of 13 Israeli women and child hostages by the militants later in the day, and aid to flow into the devastated Palestinian enclave. A number of Palestinian prisoners held in Israeli prisons were to be freed in exchange.
على عبسان على الدحاح شفنا المرار من خان يونس.
Lebanon's national network reported that no sounds of bombing were heard in Gaza as residents have started to come back to their homes despite the uncertainty of finding their houses intact.
التهدئة احنا بننظر لها يعني كتنفس من ال 45 يوم او 48 يوم الضغط اللي مضوا علينا كمواطنين غزيين. انا مواطن من مدينة غزة ونازح على مدينة رفح هنا. كنت اتمنى ان تكون التهدئة تشمل كل قطاع غزة عشان اروح اشوف بيتي المهدوم واشوف ايش الاشياء المتبقية.
There was no immediate comment from the Israeli military, which had earlier issued a call on Palestinians to stay away from the northern Gaza Strip, which it described as a war zone. The truce allows an increase in the trickle of aid that has reached civilians facing severe shortages of food, water, medicine, and electricity. As agreed, an additional aid would start flowing into Gaza, and the first hostages, with a total number rising to 50 over the 4 days. 8 trucks containing 130,000 liters of diesel and 4 tankers containing gas were seen entering the Gaza Strip from Egypt around an hour and a half since the truce began, with a guarantee that 200 trucks of aid would enter Gaza daily. Officials refused to comment on reports that Hamas had also agreed to release non-Israelis.
أعتقد أن هذه الأيام المسماة بالتهدئة هي مطلوبة لمحاولة لملمة الجراح ومحاولة إعادة ترتيب أوضاع الناس على المستوى الإنساني والاقتصادي، حيث أن النازحين من المناطق الشمالية ومن مدينة غزة يعيشون ظروف مأساوية للغاية لا يمكن وصفها في القاموس الإنساني.
The agreement raises hopes of eventually winding down the war, which has caused the violence to spill over to the West Bank, stirring fears of igniting the whole Middle East. Despite this, Israel has pushed back against such speculation, saying it was determined to resume its massive offensive once the truce ends.
פינו את כל מה שהיינו צריכים למפות, ואנחנו גם נשמיד בבית החולים את כל המנהרות שגילינו והראינו לציבור וחשפנו לעולם. הסיפור הזה של להשתמש בבתי חולים, בחסינות של הבתי חולים לפעולת טרור, לא נוכל לאפשר אותו ברצועת עזה. לכן כל תשתיות הטרור בתוך בית החולים שיפה יושמדו.
In other news, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres and Chile's President Gabriel Boric visited Antarctica this week to observe the impact of climate crisis on the continent. UN spokesperson Stefan Dujarric says the pair will assess the situation at the Collins and Nelson glaciers. She says Guterres and Boric will also stop to see the penguins and other native species at Kupaitik Island. Guterres will speak about this experience during the UN Climate Summit COP28 in Dubai next week.
China announces visa-free policy for 6 countries. Starting the 1st of December, citizens of France, Germany, Italy, the Netherlands, Spain, and Malaysia will enjoy a 150-day visa-free entry into China.
中方决定试行扩大单方面免签国家范围，对法国、德国、意大利、荷兰、西班牙、马来西亚6个国家持普通护照人员 试行单方面免签政策。 2023年12月1日至2024年11月30日期间，上述国家持普通护照人员来华经商、旅游观光、探亲访友和过境不超过15天，可免办签证入境。
Meanwhile, Bill Gates says working 3 days a week is a possibility due to artificial intelligence or AI. Gates believes AI will not take people's jobs, but it will change the lives of workers. He also admits that one day there could be a time when humans do not have to work so hard. While AI has many advantages, Gates earlier admitted the risks of AI if it is misused. Gates is not the only business boss to predict a shorter work week. JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon also said that the next generation of workers will only have a 3.5-day work week due to artificial intelligence. Some reports say that there are now companies in the United States which are testing the effectiveness of a 4-day work week scheme. Some employers and employees have given positive reports of improved work-life balance and efficiency.
Up next, the Iglesia Ni Cristo extends its help to the residents of Orange County, California. Widespread riots erupt in Dublin following a school stabbing. And there's something strange in the neighborhoods of Northern Australia as it's being overrun by rats. Mata ng Agila International will be back after a short break. Don't go away.
Amin, ang inyong sumbong laging may aksyong katapat. Lahat ng reklamo at pagbubunyag, siguradong bibigyan ng solusyon. Dahil itong responde, mata ng mamamayan.
Punong-puno ng patay na isda. Ibang klase ang amoy. Masusuka ka. Masakit sa tiyan.
Viral ngayon, malawakang fish kill sa baybayin ng Cavite City. Ating inimbestigahan, sino nga ba dapat managot?
Ngayon lang po nangyari daw talaga na sumobra naman yung dami ng namatay.
At ang responde, naghatid ng ayuda para sa mga residenteng naapektuhan.
Blessing! Salamat po.
Salamat po sa inyo, ha?
Maraming salamat po sa inyo.
Blessing na dumating sa responde. Maraming salamat po sa lahat-lahat.
Sabado, alas 6 hanggang alas 7 ng gabi, ito ang responde. Mata ng mamamayan.
Iglesia Ni Cristo, through its Care for Humanity project, has extended its help to the residents of Orange County in California. Tony Marie Gemeniano reports.
Located in the southern region of California is Orange County, home to various attractions, scenic coastlines. A popular destination for tourists and a sought-after location for establishing roots in Southern California. But despite being among the top-ranking economies in the world, many Californians also face economic hardships and struggle to meet their basic needs, a reality often overlooked.
So expensive, especially the rent and the food and everything.
Choosing going to college or working, I had to make a decision and I chose to work.
People get the magical view of Disneyland and the fireworks and they think everything is like that, but there's a lot of people who are on the other side of that wall.
Even with government programs in place to address various economic challenges, many remain feeling the burden in trying to resolve underlying issues. So today, here at Santiago Canyon College in Orange County, California, Church of Christ volunteers in partnership with the Felix Y. Manalo Foundation are reaching out in a special kind of way.
We prepared many care packages for our guests today. I would say between 1,500 to 2,000 bags. Those essentials that will really help families.
I really appreciate events like this.
All the time you help every people.
I just want to say thank you for treating us like family.
So incredibly grateful for the work that you're doing for our communities.
Está pasando aquí me gustó, me encantó cómo ustedes ayudan a todas las personas, es algo muy lindo mirar todo, cómo todas las ayudas, todos y cómo son todos amigables y todos nos hacen sentir como feliz y como que estamos en nuestra casa.
I'm looking at the sign, care for humanity. We have to care about our fellow human being. It's right now today, in especially difficult times.
The magnitude and the volume that you guys are doing is just over. It was a little overwhelming to see all that was going on and how many people you're able to help out. And not just here in Orange County, but it looked like, South Africa, there was stuff everywhere, all over the world. And I was just really impressed.
Members fulfill God's command to also help those in need through the Care for Humanity project.
The first time I saw that kind of video, especially the Iglesia ni Cristo in Manila in Quezon City. That's the first time I saw it.
Being here, being welcomed with a family, people were just very welcoming today. I actually felt the message one of the ministers gave when he mentioned helping, because it really hits home. When you come to events like this and you're giving hope, I really appreciated that.
Whether they be friends, loved ones, or those who are in need that were able to attend, what we hope is that they'll come back to future events.
Among the guests who did return was Virginia, who was invited to the Care for Humanity back in 2022 and other outreach activities throughout the year.
The Christians accept me, and people's happy that I'm here. That's more important to me.
And since then, Virginia learned more about the biblical teachings inside the Church of Christ, brightening her outlook in life.
I used to be Catholic, but this is the thing that is for real, that what I was looking for in being Iglesia de Cristo. He really gave me a hope and think better, not confused.
A hope and a clarity inside the Church of Christ that also extended to her friend, Rita.
Es diferente que en otras iglesias, y aquí no, aquí lo que me gusta es que le leen a uno pedazos de Biblia y hacen la pregunta de la Biblia.
I have love from here. This is my family here.
It is our duty to extend a helping hand to those who require support, especially in times of adversity, which is what we are doing today.
The Church of Christ helps through activities like Care for Humanity. The most important help that we provide for the people who are in need are the words of God.
Through acts of kindness, compassion, and a care for humanity rooted deeply in biblical teachings, ongoing humanitarian efforts of the Church of Christ in partnership with the Felix Y. Manalo Foundation continues to impact and inspire lives. From Orange County, California, Tony Marie Hemignano, Worldwide Lingap sa Mamamayan special coverage.
In Canada, Toronto introduces a comprehensive strategy which provides recommendations to people based on their mental health-related needs. Yolanda Aspires has the story.
1 in 5 Canadians face mental health challenges, and 1 in 2 Canadians will experience mental illness by the time they are 40, according to the Mental Health Commission of Canada. Just less than half of adults and students in Toronto reported that their mental health is very good, with the other half reporting and feeling the opposite. 17% of Toronto youth reported contemplating suicide in the past year. An average of 4,500 people die by suicide annually across Canada, making it the second leading cause of death for Canadian men ages 15 to 39. 70% of Ontarians reported feeling lonely and wanting to experience meaningful interactions. There's also a reported increase in behavioral addictions like gambling and problematic internet use, with Ontario students in grades 7 to 12 using social media for 5 or more hours a day. About 800 deaths and almost 4,500 hospitalizations are related to alcohol abuse in Toronto on a yearly average. This week is regarded as National Addictions Awareness Week. In light of these, Toronto is introducing a new and comprehensive strategy called Our Health, Our City, which provides solutions and recommendations that serve people based on their mental health-related needs. Some of the actions in this strategy include interventions, community support, evidence-based and client-centered services, improving access to housing, and supporting mentally healthy workspaces. In Toronto, Ontario, Yolanda Aspiras for Matanang Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
The city of Dublin in Ireland recently experienced a tragic stabbing that resulted in injuries to 5 people, including 3 young children. The motive behind this attack has yet to be determined, and the police have not ruled out any possibilities, including whether it could be terror-related. The attack took place in Parnell Square in Dublin, where the assailant apparently targeted multiple individuals. Among the injured, a 5-year-old girl sustained serious injuries and is undergoing emergency treatment. A woman in her 30s also suffered serious injuries, while the 2 other children, a 5-year-old boy and a 6-year-old girl, had less severe injuries. Police arrested a man in his late 40s who is also being treated for serious injuries. Public transport was suspended after clashes between riot police and anti-immigrant protesters who arrived at the scene of the attack. We have Danica Lee with the news following this incident.
Dublin police say they are not searching for any other suspects. The motive for the stabbings is unknown. The attack sparked protests and clashes with police and some of the worst violence Dublin has seen in years. Police in riot gear stood guard on streets, while crowds taunted them and shot off fireworks. In some parts of the city, protesters torched cars and looted stores. Police Chief Drew Harris blamed the unrest on what he calls a complete lunatic faction driven by far-right ideology. He warned against misinformation spread on social media about the suspected attacker's nationality. Harris adds he does not believe there is any terror-related activity. Ireland has faced a chronic housing crisis. Widespread dissatisfaction has fed into a backlash against asylum seekers and refugees. Far-right figures have promoted anti-immigration sentiment at rallies and social media with claims that Ireland is full. Danica Lee from Matanang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Meanwhile, residents of a small rural community in the U.S. state of Kentucky had some unwanted Thanksgiving travel plans following a train derailment Wednesday night. 15 cars of a freight train left the tracks, 2 of them spilling molten sulfur. Thomas I. Likeness has that report.
The fourth Thursday of November is the Thanksgiving holiday in the United States, one of the biggest celebrations of the year. But this year, for people in the tiny community of Livingston, Kentucky, the celebration has been put on hold. After the Thanksgiving Eve derailment, authorities ordered everyone out. They spent the holiday at an evacuation center instead of feasting on turkey and watching the traditional football games in their own homes. That's because the molten sulfur that spilled caught fire and released sulfur dioxide, a toxic gas. It took crews until late in the lunch hour Thursday to put out the flames. Resident Cindy Bradley says by then her holiday plans had been ruined.
Our homes are empty. It's holidays. It just makes you want to cry.
And nobody gathered around Linda Todd's dining room table either. She says she was in a panic when the evacuation order was announced.
I was freaking out because I'm like, we're cooking. We got turkeys in the oven. We can't leave.
Later in the day, officials allowed everyone to return, but for most, by then it was too late for their traditional celebration. Thomas I. Likeness from Atanang Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Protests followed Dutch elections, which saw the country make a hard right with the election of Geert Wilders. In Utrecht, about 1,000 people protested Wilders' win on a campaign centered on far-right ideology. Nia James tells us more.
The protest in Utrecht is one of the two organized by left-wing parties. An anti-fascism march had also been planned for Amsterdam. Wilders stunned the Dutch establishment by winning 37 seats in parliament, by far the largest party. During the campaign, he toned down some of his anti-Islamic rhetoric, but his PVV party calls for a ban on mosques and the Quran. As well, refugees in the Netherlands fear for their future. The party says residence permits for those granted asylum should be cancelled. Wilders has also promised to hold an exit referendum in a bid to take the country out of the European Union. Before Wilders can become prime minister, he will need the support of other and right-center parties. He has also begun courting them to be a part of a coalition government. Nia Dames from Atanang Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
The Indonesian government has relocated more than 200 Rohingya refugees from the beaches of a remote island where locals wanted to push them back to sea. The latest group had arrived late Tuesday night. Arlene Ocampo has the details.
After more than 2 weeks of being adrift on a rickety wooden boat, the 200 Rohingya refugees landed in Sabang City in western Aceh province. Local authorities agreed to their relocation by ferry later on Wednesday. A UN refugee organization took them to an old immigration building in one of Aceh's biggest cities. The latest arrivals bring to 1,000 the number of Rohingya who have landed on the province's shores in the last week. This recent influx is the biggest wave of Rohingya to flee to Indonesia since 2015. More than 1 million people from the ethnic group have fled Myanmar since the 1990s. Most left in the wake of a 2017 military crackdown that forced the bulk of them to settle in camps in Bangladesh. Indonesia says it is not compelled to take in refugees from Myanmar, complaining that neighboring countries have shut their doors. Arlene Ocampo from Atanang Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Karumba, a town in northeastern Australia, has been experiencing a phenomenon where a large number of rodents, specifically native long-haired rats, have been washing up dead on the beach. Many rats are scurrying across boat ramps and finding their way into garden sheds and homes. The rat infestation is believed to be a result of a heavy wet season that has affected several towns in outback Queensland, including Richmond, Glengarry, and Julia Creek. While rodent plagues are not uncommon after wet seasons, it is unusual for them to persist for as long as they have, according to a local rodent expert. Mayor Jack Bodden of Carpentaria Shire Council explained that the community had been anticipating the rats movement towards the north for some time. However, there are limited options for the council to address the issue. They have resorted to setting traps known as splinters in wheelie bins as a means of control. Startup firm Sensify showcases its electronic nose designed to detect volatile organic compounds, or VOCs, given off by bacteria to prevent food poisoning. Experts or health experts say a human's nose has around 400 scent receptors that can detect 1 trillion different odors. The firm, however, claims that their e-nose can replicate such a level of sensory expertise with the help of recent advances in artificial intelligence. According to Sensify, the machine utilized an AI software system that stores data of different electric signals. This helps users to be notified of various strains of bacteria. The firm claims that its e-nose can detect Salmonella and E. coli, both common types of potentially deadly foodborne bacteria.
Coming right up, Chinese medical authorities shed light on the spike in pneumonia cases in the country. The Celtics are back on top of the Eastern Conference as Kawhi Leonard gets a bittersweet homecoming. And why not catch something more local in the movies this weekend? Catch more news and sports and entertainment when we come back.
Dear Boss Leg, ang ngalan ko po ay Pablo. Hoy, Pablo!
Ate, ano pa? Uy!
Ba't ka dyan natutulog? Ibig sarili ka namang kwarto.
May tao din sa kwarto eh.
Ah, yung kumpari mo na naman.
Ate, alam mo naman best friend ko si Paring Dito.
Para kay dito sa Bupala.
Hey, dito? Apo. 580. 580.
Eh, di ba parang ipapaloko na lang si Pablo sa kumpara niya?
Love, Bosslen, and Tali. Tuwing linggo, alas 6 ng gabi dito lang sa Net 25.
Magandang umaga po, si Jeffrey Santos ito at ipipresenta ko sa inyo ang aming lockdown surprises. Ano-ano ito? Super Crispy Chicken Thighs, Bouncy Bola-Bola, Asian Chicken Burger, Sotahon Gisado with chicken and squid balls. Yan ang nanam-namin ninyo! Wala ba? Wala ba sa... Makaluto na po. Kalutong Dasa, kada Sabado, 11 a.m. dito po sa Net 25.
Chinese health authorities say seasonal germs rather than unusual or novel pathogen is behind the spike in pediatric respiratory illness in the northern part of their country. They explained that the increase in the number of sick kids is due to Mycoplasma pneumonia, a common infection that often affects younger children. Health experts say these seasonal germs can be treated with antibiotics. China's statement came after the World Health Organization, or WHO, sought Beijing for more information after a surge in cases of children with pneumonia or respiratory illness was recorded. After examining the disease data from China, the World Health Organization concluded that no unusual or novel pathogens have been detected.
There are new kings of the East as the grizzled young veterans of the Boston Celtics hold out against the newly minted Milwaukee duo. Vin Pasqua has the score.
Jason Tatum shook off an illness to come up with 23 points and 11 boards, carrying the Boston Celtics over the Milwaukee Bucks 119-116 in an early showdown of the top Eastern Conference teams. Jaylen Brown added to this with 26 of his own with 8 assists, while Kristaps Porzingis and Derek White added 21 and 13 respectively, improving the NBA's record to 12-3. The Celtics opened a 21-point lead in the first half and never trailed, holding a double-digit lead until the Bucks made a last salvo in the final 2 minutes. Brook Lopez led Milwaukee Bucks with 28 points, while Damian Lillard had 7 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists. But Giannis Antetokounmpo was limited to 21 points after scoring at least 40 in his last 2 games. Meanwhile, over in the West, Kawhi Leonard scored 26 points while hearing boos that prompted San Antonio coach Greg Popovich to admonish the crowd, while Paul George added 24 in a win against San Antonio. Victor Wembanyama, the number 1 overall draft pick, had 22 points and 14 rebounds for the Spurs, whose fans were more focused on jeering one of their former stars. Jeremy Sohan finished with 19 points, Devin Vassell added 18, Zach Collins had 16 for San Antonio, which has trailed by at least 15 points in 8 games this season. Reporting for Sports, Vin Pascua for Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
The 2023 Q Cinema International Film Festival held its awards ceremony Thursday night, and here are the winners from the Fest's 3 competition sections. Stephanie Mayo has the scoop.
This year's Q Cinema International Film Festival held its awards ceremony Thursday night at the Versailles Garden Novotel Manila, Araneta City. Q Cinema, the brainchild of Quezon City Mayor Joy Belmonte and Ed Lejano as festival director, awarded the best of the best from its 3 competition sections. From the Asian Next Wave competition, the Malaysian coming-of-age horror Tiger Stripes by Amanda Nell Yu took home the Pylon Award for Best Film, while the South Korean romantic drama Mimang took home the NetPac Jury Prize. From the QC Short section, the All-Filipino Short Film competition of the festival, Adrian Araujo's dark comedy Animal Lovers took the top prize as Best Short, and the jury prize went to Che Tagiamon's Tumatawa Umiiyak. For the QC Shorts, or the Southeast Asian Short Film competition, the Filipino socio-political comedy Hito by Steven Lopez took home the Best Short Film, while the jury prize was awarded to Malaysian film Mop by June Go. Q Cinema runs until Sunday the 26th, and cinephiles can still catch the last 2 days of screenings this weekend, including the best film Tiger Stripes, which won the Critics' Week Grand Prize at the Cannes Film Festival this year and is set to compete at the 2024 Oscars. Stephanie Mayo for Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Actress Jen Ortega has dropped out of Scream 7 due to a scheduling conflict with her Netflix series Wednesday. Just 1 day after Scream star Melissa Barrera was fired by Spyglass due to the actress's social media posts about the Israel-Palestine war, it was announced that Jen Ortega is also departing the 7th installment of the horror franchise. Ortega's exit from Scream 7 is said to be over a scheduling conflict and not related to Barrera's firing. Sources also say that Ortega's representatives informed Spyglass even before the SAG-AFTRA strike began that the actress would not be returning for the slasher sequel. According to a report by Deadline, Ortega will be in Ireland in April to shoot the 2nd season of Netflix's Wednesday, which reportedly overlaps with the production schedule of Scream 7. Barrera and Ortega play sisters Tara and Sam Carpenter in the 2022 revival of Scream and were supposed to be part of this year's sequel, Scream 7, with returning director Christopher Landon. And just like that, it's already Friday. Happy Friday. And to end the week, here's a quote from Chancellor Jonathan Bennett, better known as Chance the Rapper. Something I try to instill in others is to just be a good person. It's a decision you make a million times a day. But if you just keep trying, good stuff comes to you in an ordained way.
I can be the rapper Chance myself, because that's always been one of my mantra. You have to always take the higher road. Everyone faces challenges, everyone faces trials, difficult people even. But it's up to us to take the higher road because what comes around goes around.
Definitely. Same here. I am echoing every word that he said because I believe in trying to be a good person.
So you can
every
also be a
single
rapper,
day.
too.
I can also be a rapper. Yo, yo, yo. It's Friday. Happy
We're
weekend,
just
yo,
having
yo.
fun because it's finally Friday. And that's a wrap for tonight's news. Catch the latest updates on our social media channels. I am Ricky Matay.
And I am Nina Richie Alagao-Flores, wishing everyone a great weekend. This is Mata ng Agila International, trusted, connected, on point. Thank you for choosing Mata ng Agila International. Follow, like, and subscribe to @Net25 TV.